The wind of change is evident in the administrative prowess of Governor Yahaya Bello in moving Kogi State forward, as there are many tangible proofs to the proposed plans and projects foretold. One of the 5 thematic areas of the blueprint of this forward-looking administration that is gaining steady speed in change and advancement is the educational sector.
The administration of His Excellency Alhaji Yahaya Bello, discovering that an enlightened society is a society that is civilized. Upon take-up as a governor, there are thematic areas which the government intend to focus. And education is the first and major thematic area of this government. And the government had ensured, of course most recently, between 2015 and 2016, projects that are going to be rolled out today, over 100 structures of 2 classrooms across the 21 local governments, over 200 renovations of our school buildings, over 20 laboratories to be built, over 30 VIP toilets, and of course specialized tables and chairs for our schools. The government had paid our own catapult fund in full. And of course UBEC to have added her own. It may interest you to know too that the state government had equally paid the catapult fund for 2017 projects, which we are yet to execute. So the government realizing that the pupil and the teachers need conducive atmosphere for teaching and learning to take place effectively, they have put all this in place. In fact, very soon, all across the state, you will see all these structures coming up and dotting the line. So the government is really up and doing in the areas of ensuring that the teacher and the children are well positioned for effective teaching and learning.
I think I would draw your mind back to January 22nd. His Excellency, within that week, His Excellency Governor Yahaya Bello marked his 2nd year in office, which is like a midterm review. And education was accorded attention. On the 22nd of January, Kogi State convened the Education Summit. There's been it's been questioned whether or not the state has really had a summit before in the past. There's been some form of gathering, but that didn't seem to have created an adequate feedback on next steps for the government. But then on the 22nd of January, we had the Education Summit, and there we took time to review what you would call a midterm review of the government. What is the government done so far, and what do the government hope to achieve, and how does the government need to review and rethink what it needed to do. And part of what we do was, for the first time, Kogi State brought together intellectuals in the field, stakeholders across all divides, community group, development association. In fact, the state did that in partnership with Action Aid. And then we looked at, again, we reviewed the performance of government in 3 thematic areas. The first is to look at the legal and institutional framework for the sector. Again, to look at the performance management of the sector. Is learning actually taking place? And the goals that have been set, have they been achieved? And most importantly, the third one, again, we looked at entrepreneurship, technical and vocational studies, education. Why is that important? Because one, let me remind you again that Kogi State cannot by itself in Nigeria set up a parallel education targets, different from one on the federal scheme. Education is on the concurrent list of the federal government, so you find that that framework exists. At the state level, education is one of the 5 thematic goals of His Excellency Governor Yahaya Bello.
If you can educate the mind, you are capable of achieving anything. And that is what we are tailoring the educational policy of the state towards as we speak. So we have to start from the foundation, which is the elementary education, or what we call the basic education level. And as we speak, his administration has committed quite a lot of resources to ensuring that that foundation is gotten right. The moment you miss the foundation, then you have nothing to achieve, because if at the primary school level nothing is achieved, then you cannot go to the tertiary level to correct it. It becomes very difficult. So the administration is laying a very solid foundation at the basic education level to ensure that our children understand the basics, to ensure that they are they are put in the mainstream of understanding how to be good citizens of Nigeria, how to contribute their quota to the development of Nigeria. And that is why we are achieving a lot of feats in the educational sector. Kogi is ranking very high in public examinations since the advent of the present administration in the state.
The administration knows the importance of education as the greatest bedrock to being relevant in life. With deep understanding in the fact that education is multifaceted, the state government over the past 2 years has set up partnerships and structures for skill acquisition and vocational centers.
We have the marching order of His Excellency. You know, they say he's a young governor and he's a digital governor who has given us a marching order to ensure that we digitalize all our activities here. The ICT, within the next few weeks, the ICT center of the board will take off. So that at the touch of the button, we'll be able to tell you within any community, within any school environment, the number of pupils there, the number of teachers there, and the infrastructures there. The ones that are good in use, the ones that needed to be renovated, and of course, what are the infrastructure lacking in all these communities. So we are doing, in fact, we are working on that presently with the special advisor to the governor on ICT. So you see, and of course, we'll use it to train our administrators in the various LGAs. I want to let you know that because the governor wants the best result, we have just appointed new education secretaries. And he said it's not going to be business as usual. We must train them to know what is required of them on the job. We just finished 2-day seminar, workshop for the education secretary, the 21 of them, last week, Thursday, Friday. And of course, the communique had arisen from it. They were happy. As at this morning, I got messages from them that, look, they were well equipped for this job. It has never happened in this state. And today we have over 120 computers to be distributed to the entire 21 LGAs.
The part of the civil service reform was to ensure that we have teachers that are competent and committed to their duties. And that is one of the ways through which we can put a lot of impetus to educational development in the state. As we speak, teachers no longer go to Onitsha and pretend they are teaching in Aiwa. It has become very difficult. So you have to be at your duty post. And also, the state government is toying with the idea of having what we call the competency test. No matter what some people feel about it, it is very much necessary because you cannot give what you don't have. So as a teacher, you must be able to pass the kind of exam you expect your pupils to pass. So these are some of the things that have been put in place. We are putting in place very solid infrastructural base in the educational system to have classrooms that will be better than what we have in the private schools, so that it will attract a lot of people there. One of the main policies of Alhaji Yahaya Bello administration is also to ensure that public schools are better than private schools. This is key in order to ensure that, one, education is affordable. Two, we bring back the glorious days of excellent public schools in our societies.
Within these very critical issues that the government will need to address, they together would form what would be quality education at the end of the day. Is education one of those things you can readily measure in 1 year? How long does it take for you to graduate a child? And then again, how do you look at extracurriculum activities again? The other part of education which is as important as education itself. Sporting facilities, extracurriculum activities. I think it's a lot of a challenge to wake up and address all of these across board, looking again into social clubs within school to take children away from other vices. You will need to pay attention into how do you use their energy for productive reasons, for instance, setting up schools, farms, trying to bring in afforestation again into school compounds, teaching students to do community service. So we are at the point where we are partnering with all kinds of groups. You're partnering with people to talk about developing extra activities like reading clubs. And in fact, the ministries are working so hard. I think the Teaching Service Commission is putting up readers and learners and other initiatives that they are working through. And then you find just about this period, period. The sporting activities within schools are emerging again. So we're having to deal with a whole lot of issues. Those are foundational issues. For you to appreciate this is to note that where you find schools where these are working, for instance, in Kaduna State, we had an exchange student who walked into this office and told us, oh, the Kaduna State government gave her an award because of all sports, she came tops in baseball. I say that again. When did you start learning baseball? That's not one of the sports. And then we get to investigate, and then we found, oh, USAID actually is giving strong support to Kaduna State government. And the gifts she thought Kaduna State government gave to her actually came from USAID and some other civil societies. I would like to see that happens in Kogi State before very soon, that we would upstream some of this support. That is usually have been.
Yeah, we may not be able to give the details in terms of Naira and Kobo as we speak, but as we speak, the administration is embarking on what we call the GYB model primary schools. They are in all the wards, the 239 wards in the state. As we speak, work is in advanced stage in all of the projects. So we expect that in a couple of months, we'll start commissioning all those projects across the state. That costs quite a fortune. And apart from that, we have selected our legacy schools in the state as the model, the pilot for what we are called the model secondary schools in Kogi State. Many of the schools across the 3 senatorial districts, because whatever we are doing in this administration, equity is key. We ensure that we spread our projects across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. So these are some of the things that we are doing. We're also training our teachers, and that costs a lot, because if you want the best from your teachers, you must continue to train and retrain them to be conversant with the global best practice, and that's exactly what we are doing in the state, to make sure we equip our teachers to be able to deliver.
The states, again, in their own side of obligation, have to set up counterpart fund. They said, this is what federal government is bringing, this is what state has to bring, because this is the partnership arrangement that works in those ones. So there are activities for which the state fund by itself. There are activities that the local government will be expected to put up some of those funds. But again, if you look at the scheme again, that, if you ask me, there's what percentage of the budgets are there and what percentage of it are available. It brings in to why education becomes everybody's business. If you go to some parts of the world, you find that individual and well-meaning people of the society, even in Nigeria they do, sadly not in Kogi State, you would find that well-meaning people in the society donate structures, they donate buildings, they donate materials to schools and all that. But then I challenge you, if you go around Kogi State schools, most of what you find is education trust fund.
Projects are not taken to states without states being ready to fund their own part of it. For instance, if a project is going to be 5 million for a particular year, the state is expected to pay 2.5 million, while UBEC Abuja will now bring their own 2.5 million. I want to tell you that this government had paid Catapult Fund for 3 years running, 2015, 2016, 2017. We are just rolling out the 2015, 2016 projects. Contractors will be on the field in the next few days. While the 2017, we are working on it to ensure that, again, it goes out. So it's a massive project going on to ensure that education wakes up. It's no longer business as usual. The government want to see infrastructural challenges are what is being addressed right now. And that is what the Catapult Fund is usually meant for.
And when you talk about goals, they are globally determined goals, like I was trying to say. And if you look at the national goals, they are not much different from the global goals. And at the level of the state, if you go through the documents we call the New Direction Blueprint and all the targets, how did the New Direction Blueprints came about? First, it is a government that wants to deliver to the people what they want. So you send people out there and you say across the states and across what would they want. And these are divided into, okay, this is what you want and this is what government could give to you. Now, that document sets a target of what government needs to give to the people. And these, again, come back in different form. For instance, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal, a copy of which was hanging here earlier, and then you're talking about enrollment into school, reducing the number of school dropouts, and these are all targets. Then how do you achieve that? It's where you begin to work towards the goal, the target, and the various measures you will need to put that across board. One, again, would have been infrastructure. Under infrastructure, like I said, education is on the concurrent list of the federal government. So you would find that there are federal government funding even to infrastructure and other ones. Under the UBE, Universal Basic Education, you know there are federal determined funds that come into the states, and that is executed by the State Universal Basic Education Board. So you would have that you have UBE constructions of classrooms and other teaching aids and schools that are going about there. And those are some of the feedback you had before now. But you know again that God. So, and I think I am yet to be informed that any individual have constructed a hostel in any of our institutions and label it, call it your name, any individual in the society. So there's still so much of ownership of the sector that comes in. Even at the level of community schools, you find that we have a lot of gap. First, when you look at infrastructure again, how many of the public schools we have are actually planned by government, established by government according to a particular order? You would find that most of them, the 240-something schools I called, most of them are community schools and they are grant aided by government because somebody wake up sometime, establish a school in his community and found we receive requests every day. We need teachers in those schools and government is burdened up with proliferation of schools that do not follow any particular order. But those are issues that the current government of the day would have to deal with. What do you call a standard school building? What are the minimum standards that you should have for classrooms? And then, and again, we would like it to be interesting to note again that His Excellency is creating 6 modern schools across the states. And that, again, we're doing with taking up, I think if I check somewhere, I could give you the list of those schools we have somewhere. Those are taking everyday normal school and then turning them into what you would call prototype modern schools with facilities that I think I'll find it and I will give you the names of those schools. But for this particular 6 schools, yes, I have them here. We have the Abdulaziz Atta Memorial College in Okene. It's currently one of the exchange school program we have. The Ochaja Boys, Ochaja Girls Secondary School, those are in the east. You have a TCOM College in Egbe. You have the Crowder Memorial College, Lokoja, and then I think you have one other school which is not on this list. But then again, the government will have to pay attention to all those issues. For instance, you would ask, how about inclusive education? Where are the schools for the physically challenged and other people who are living with one form of physical challenge or the other? Government would have to pay attention to all those cross-carpeting issues. So looking at infrastructure on one side, looking again at the content, the curriculum, and the quality of education on the other side, ensuring that you don't have unnecessary school dropout. Possibly you could hear the attention the government is making towards ensuring that one exam malpractice is addressed within the state. It is sad that somewhere along the line, exam malpractice in Kogi State turned out to be one of the highest in the state, and government is paying attention with number one, the loss of the high dropout rate you notice in public schools, the unusual high increase you find in private schools and some other schools, especially within these years. And government is, the government of His Excellency Governor Yahaya Bello is addressing those. I think these have been, and then again, creating access to teaching aids and teaching tools, again, is part of what we are working in.
Right now, we are doing very well. What we can use to gauge our performance is how we're able to perform in public examinations where we compete with other states across the Federation. And right now, Kogi is doing very, very well. Even at that, we are not going to pretend about the fact that some of our schools in Kogi State were fingered in examination malpractices. Why other states are sweeping it under the carpet, we have refused to do that. We have brought it to the fore to preach reorientation. The Ministry of Education is leading the campaign against examination malpractice. It's not acceptable. Malpractice is a form of corruption, and this administration has zero tolerance for corruption. So we are fighting examination malpractice. We want the result we produce to be the true reality of the position of our educational system. And in the next 5 years, Kogi State will rank as one of the best 3.
The present Kogi State, which is known as Kaba Province, in the old northern Nigeria, is the warehouse of intellectuals. Whether you like it or not. the old Kawa province have produced technocrats for the old northern region. And today we are in Kogi State. What it used to be before, like we would tell people, His Excellency said, if in 1973-76, the Kawa province was divided into Benue and Kwara. We have gone to develop Benue. We've gone to develop Kwara. We are back as the old Kawa province under a name now, Kogi State. I mean, you know what we can do to education in this state. So I want to say that in the next, not 5 years is a long period. In the next 3 years from now, how I wish you come back to Kogi State and see what it is. If we even go to the street, Kogi State of 2 years ago is not what you see now. The whole place smelling. I had visitors from UBEC, Abuja, they said, Chairman, this is about the best suburb headquarters we have been to. Is it in terms of organization? Is it in terms of neatness? Or even the personnel on ground? So I'm assuring you that within the next 2 to 3 years, I don't want to exaggerate, other states will have to be following us. In fact, they will come here to learn how we have turned around basic education in this state. Let me not even spell out for you what is likely to happen, but you will see. And the whole world will see. We will showcase what we have. We will tell you what it used to be before and what it is now. Please give us the next 24 months. We'll get there. Why are you doing 5 years? Within the next 24 months, you will see what the administration of His Excellency Yahaya Bello will do to basic education.
The ministry in the past few weeks have attended events at the national level. One of them is the Commonwealth, the African Union meeting, where we get to talk about the celebration of the Commonwealth Day. I don't know if that has ever been celebrated in Kogi State. But you see, when the director which represented the ministry got there, she got this feedback of, finally, Kogi is here. This is the first time you're showing up in any meeting like this. And we're like, okay, Kogi State would like to celebrate Commonwealth Day. They said, you've never been there. And then, oh, we would like for you to do it yourself. And then now we take notes that you're here. And we get that response across almost every front. And then that His Excellency is asking those questions, addressing those issues, bringing together those stakeholders, and then at the same time saying the assumption of the new direction blueprint, the assumption of the government is that for government to achieve 100% all it says in the 2018 budget, in the 2017 budget, is that government would have to receive support from the federal, from international partners, from well-meaning members of the society and members of the corporate world as well, for us to be able to deliver on this, because education is everybody's business. And we're doing our best to be sure we carry that plea across to everybody and say, people adopt a school. We got contacted by a group that would like to donate books to Kogi State University. And we would like to see more of that. We would like to see people donate buildings and not just condemn the government and say the government is not doing enough. Yes, there's competing demands on government resources, but if everybody do what they should, I'm very positive we'll get beyond what there is. So I'm excited about all the support and the interests that the general society is having. It will interest you to know that the visit we had today from the DG of NAPTEP is the first formal visit they have made to the state.
The educational sector in Kogi State has been in need of improvement for a while now, and the state government is doing everything in line with Governor Yahaya Bello's drive in bringing change to make sure that from the grassroots way up, the minds of the people are educated enough to handle the excellence the administration is steadily unveiling.